Okay, so there's this phrase that everyone loves: control the controllables. You hear it from athletes, coaches, business people, self help gurus. It's supposed to be this wise Stoic principle. Focus on what you can control and let go of what you can't. Don't waste energy on things outside of your influence. Sounds great, right? It's practical, empowering, strategic. Except here's my problem with it. We've gotten really good at pretending way more things are controllable than actually are. Like the original idea, sure. Don't stress about the weather. Don't spiral about other people's opinions. Don't obsess over outcomes you can't directly influence. Focus on your effort, your attitude, your preparation. That makes sense. But that's not how we use it anymore. Now it's become this psychological trick we play on ourselves where we take fundamentally uncertain, complex, often random aspects of life and convince ourselves that if we just controlled the controllables hard enough, we could guarantee the outcome we want. You didn't get the job? Well, you didn't control the controllables. But you prepared, you showed up, and did your best. So either you didn't actually control them well enough, or maybe you did, and it still didn't work. But no, that can't be right. You must have missed something controllable. Your relationship ended, you didn't control the controllables. Communication, effort, showing up. Clearly, you didn't optimize those enough, because if you had, then it would have worked out, right? You're struggling financially. Control the controllables. Budget better. Work harder. Wake up earlier. Optimize your time. If you're still struggling, you must not be controlling them correctly. Did you see what I did there? I took control the controllables and turned it into everything is controllable if you try hard enough. And if things go wrong, it's because you didn't control enough. It's just a more sophisticated way of blaming yourself. And I think we do this because the alternative is terrifying. The alternative is accepting that you could do everything right and still fail. That you can control every controllable factor and still not get the outcome you want. That randomness and luck and other people's choices and timing and 1,000 variables you can't even see play a massive role in how things turn out. And that's uncomfortable. That means you're not actually in control. That means that effort doesn't guarantee results. So your ability to determine your life's trajectory is way more limited than you want to believe. So instead, we expand the definition of controllable until it includes basically everything. We tell ourselves if we just work hard enough, plan well enough, optimize enough, that we can control the outcome. But we can't. You can't control whether you get the job. You can't control how you prepare, how you present yourself, how you answer questions. But you can't control whether there's an internal candidate, whether the hiring manager's cousin needs a job, whether they decide to freeze hiring the day before your interview, whether someone just happened to have the experience with this obscure software that they wanted. And you can't control whether the relationship will work. You can control how you communicate, how you show up, how much effort you put in, but you can't control whether the other person is ready for what you're offering, whether their attachment style meshes with yours, whether they're dealing with things that you don't know about, whether they simply want something different than what you want. And you can't control your health outcomes either. You can control your diet, your exercise, your sleep, your stress management, but you can't control your genetics, your environment, the random cellular mutations that happens in everyone's bodies, the random accident that happened on a Tuesday afternoon. So here's the thing I really don't like about this phrase. It creates this illusion that if you just focus on the right things, then you could avoid bad outcomes. That failure is always a result of not controlling enough. But sometimes you control every single thing that you can control and it still doesn't work out. Sometimes you do everything right and still lose anyway. Sometimes you make all the smart choices and get unlucky. Sometimes the controllables that you were focused on weren't the ones that mattered, but you couldn't have known that in advance. And when that happens, control the controllables becomes this weapon that you use against yourself. You didn't just experience bad luck or unfortunate circumstances. You failed to control. You must have missed something. You must have not tried hard enough. And it's exhausting. But look, I'm not saying don't try. I'm not saying that effort doesn't matter. I'm not saying you should just give up and blame everything on external factors. I'm saying be honest with how little you actually control. You control your actions. That's it. That's basically the whole list. You don't control outcomes, you don't control other people, you don't control timing, you don't control luck, you don't control whether your effort pays off, you don't control whether the universe cooperates with your plans. You only control what you do. And even that, even your own actions, you control less than you think. You're influenced by your mood, your energy, your circumstances, your biology, your past, the information available to you, and the options that you can perceive. So, this idea you can just control the controllables and everything will work out if you do it right, it's a fantasy. It's a way of pretending the world is more orderly and fair and responsive to effort than it actually is. Once you really accept that most of life is uncontrollable, that outcomes aren't purely determined by your choices, that you're doing your best in a fundamentally uncertain system, something changes. You stop taking every failure as evidence of personal inadequacy. You stop beating yourself up for not controlling things that were never controllable. You just do what you can. You make the best choices you can with the information that you have. You show up, you try, and then you accept that the outcome might not match your effort. Not because you didn't control enough, but because that's how life works. Most of it isn't controllable, and pretending otherwise just makes you feel like a failure when reality does what reality does, whatever it wants, regardless of how well you controlled your controllables. So, yeah, control what you can, but be honest with yourself about how short that list actually is, and stop using it as a way to blame yourself when things outside of your control don't go your way. You're not failing to control enough. You're just human, trying to navigate a world that's mostly random, with limited information, doing your best. And sometimes your best isn't enough to determine the outcome. And that's not your fault, that's just life.